Good morning. Good morning and welcome to our virtual public forum, COVID-19, Surviving the Storm, Exploring Strategies for Coping in a COVID-19 Environment. My name is Patrick Prendergast and I am the campus director at the University of the West Indies Mona Western Jamaica campus, located in the city of Montego Bay. There is no doubt that this COVID-19 pandemic has hit a severe body blow to the lives and livelihood of our peoples all over the world. As we speak, there are over 3.2 million cases and near 250,000 deaths worldwide. Across the Caribbean, certainly in Jamaica, and definitely along the western belt of this country, we have witnessed how destabilizing an effect this disease has been on island states that are so heavily dependent on global travel, on international trade. The tourism and service industries are considered to be the bedrock upon which the lives and livelihoods of our people across the western Jamaica is built. Within the area, what we have seen is we've seen the airport closed, hotels closed, the entertainment and leisure spots, they're closed. Educational institutions are gone online. The hustle and bustle and dynamism of life as we knew it, from Ocho Rios to Falmouth, through to the city of Montego Bay to Lucy and Negril, that special, unique, social being that is Jamaican, it has gone quiet. Everything has slowed, some to an ominous grind. Everything has slowed. Our economy, our sociocultural dynamics, our psychological well-being, all are being challenged in ways we've never imagined, just even a few weeks ago. But as I've always maintained, we are a resilient people. We are a creative and innovative force. And we are a wellspring of hope and optimism. And it is in that fact that we find frame for today's forum. As a university, it is our mandate to provide instruction, direction, and guidance to the construction of a sustainable society. It is our responsibility to build relationships and partnerships that lead to the development of our people. It is our obligation to care for the people who invest in us and in whom we invest. This partnership with the Montego Bay Chamber of Commerce and Industry is about fulfilling that mandate, meeting that responsibility, satisfying that obligation to ensure that our people not only survive the storms, but also learn new ways of dancing through the rain. Dr. Andre Houghton, Mr. Wayne Cummings, and Miss Georgia Rose will this morning help us explore innovative ideas for economic survival, examine the likely operating protocols in the tourism sector, and present sound and practical considerations for preserving our mental health. I will have a co-moderator in the president of the Witter Group and director of the Montego Bay Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Mrs. Angela Witter. She will join me later. But for now, I want to turn you over to the president of the Montego Bay Chamber of Commerce and Industry, the dynamic Janet Silver.
Thank you. Good morning to you all. It is indeed a pleasure for me to be able to be part of this historic moment in the history of the Montego Bay Chamber of Commerce and Industry. We all know all the changes that have taken place in this world. And for us to have a virtual forum that is looking at what COVID has done to Jamaica, in particular to Montego Bay, was very significant for the Montego Bay Chamber of Commerce. In fact, when we decided that we needed this and we went to the University of the West Indies, Mona Western Jamaica campus director, Dr. Patrick Prendergast. He did not hesitate. He embraced it wholeheartedly. In fact, he became an advisor, showing us the ropes, telling us what subject matters he thought we needed to discuss. So here we are today. This forum is one of many initiatives being undertaken by the Montego Bay Chamber of Commerce. Patrick Prendergast will tell you that Montego Bay does not consider this city to be the second city. No, we consider ourselves to be one of two cities in Jamaica. And that is why we have our own mayor here this morning with us, Mayor Homer Davis, who will also bring greetings on behalf of the municipality, and a number of Montegonians who will help you to go through what COVID has offered, what COVID has placed on our staircases. It is indeed heartwarming for me to be a part of this, and I want to welcome those of you who are online as we go through today's proceeding. I know that the takeaway is going to be significant because among our speakers are some of the best in the country. And as a Montegonian, I'm proud to say that the three speakers are, I don't know if all of them were born in Montego Bay, but they are from Montego Bay. So this is the first in a series. Our next project is our mask mobile, and I want to show you my mask. I want to put it on, show you how it's put on. We are doing a promotion, encouraging persons to mask up when they go out. We're also doing a care package program where we will feed 1,000 families. In addition to that, the Montego Bay Chamber of Commerce and Industry will do a project with the Poor Relief Department. We're trying to find vitamins for the elderly. Everything that we do on behalf of the city of Montego Bay. And we invite you to join us in all these efforts. I want to thank you. Enjoy the program. And I now invite Mayor of Montego Bay, His Worship, Councillor Homer Davis, who is going to bring us greetings. Thank you. Mayor, need to remove your unmute. Mayor, need to unmute. Okay. Mayor, no unmute. Okay. Hold on.
And go ahead, Mayor. Go ahead, Mayor.
All right, thank you. Thank you very much. Let me say, it's a pleasure to be representing the city of Montego Bay as a mayor at this time. It is indeed a difficult time for our city and by extension, Jamaica. But let me say a very good morning to our listeners and our viewers, both online and persons who might be just tuning in, probably not fully aware that this program would be online. And Janet, let me commend you and the Chamber for this initiative. But I'll start by saying Tuesday, March the 10th, 2020, the date on which Jamaica confirmed its first case of COVID-19 will go down as a date which has changed the landscape of the financial, business, social, medical, and a host of other sectors in our country. Since that date, the number of COVID-19 cases has gradually increased until it skyrocketed with the intervention of a Lorica call center Those cases represents, I think, about 60% of our cases here in Jamaica. As mayor of Montego Bay, I must give thanks and praise to the hardworking frontline workers, the medical personnel, the members of the security forces, and other essential workers who have done their very best in keeping our parish relatively safe of COVID-19. And I think when I looked at the chart the last time, we had 8 cases. As a corporation, we have partnered with several members of the business community in ensuring that the wheels of production keep rolling. I must also say a big thank you to the members of the business community for their generous contribution, both in cash and in kind, to the municipality. As a corporation, we have partnered with several other agencies of government. But through our poor relief department and through allocation from the government to councillors, we were able to spend some $10.5 million in providing near 6,000 care packages for our needed citizens who are scattered right across the 17 divisions in the parish. We have also, in our own reach to the people, we have started a water distribution process. So far, we have distributed some 200 loads of water across some 15 communities that are having challenges as it relates to their water supply. In addition, we have established wayside tanks in several communities. These wayside tanks are replenished once per week, so the citizens can have access to this basic commodity. We have spent some $1.5 million on a major public education program to include town criers, to include over 100,000 flyers, and it is an ongoing process because we have to keep reminding our citizens of the best practices that they need to adopt. Going forward, I am certainly looking forward to see the back of this virus, which will ensure that business sector can rebound and our citizens who have been laid off or have lost their jobs can again start earning an honest living. The St. James Municipal Corporation stand ready to continue its partnership with the business sector in crafting strategies aimed at the recovery of all sectors here in Montego Bay, which I know have been hit very hard because of the layoffs in the in the hotel sector and in the private sector. But as we move forward into this discussion, I'm sure that we will come out of this crisis as a better destination and as a better people. COVID-19 has forced us to make changes which will now become the new normal. Social distancing, virtual meetings, staying together while being apart. So let me once again pay tribute to the essential workers and members of the business community who have been bending their backs in making sure that the citizens of this city and parish is kept not only safe, but production as it relates to our ongoing commercial activities. I must say a big thank you to the market vendors who sometimes we give a hard time. We knock them very hard, but they are providing an essential service. Can you imagine if we close the Charles Garden Market for 3 or 4 weeks? What would we do as persons who normally go to the market to buy our local produce? And what will that do, or what would that do to their whole economic survival? You have persons who visit the market on a daily basis to make a living in order that they can go home and feed their families. So I say to us, let us consider what the deliberation is all about. But I don't think as a people, as a city, we can pull down all the shutters in the city of Montego Bay. Once again, I wish for this panel success. I wish for this panel very thought-provoking. Once again, thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you very much, Mayor.
All right.
I
Morning, everyone. Reverend, how are you? Panel, as you can see, I was speaking soon. That was the mayor of Montego Bay, Davis. The issue, as you know,
thank you so very much, Mayor. As usual, bringing, a message of hope. I want to introduce you to my co-moderator, Angela Witter. She's the president of the Witter Group and a director of the chamber, and she's part of the team that really pulled this thing together. So, Angela, would you like to just make a few comments and then we'll move straight into our presentations?
Nice setup. But I just want to say how much I am happy to be a part of this and the initiative with the chamber and all the other persons who are here giving their support in contribution. I am thankful and grateful for my community, and I'm just looking forward to what the exchanges will bring today, and hoping that from this we can come out understanding more how to live and work and do whatever is necessary to alleviate whatever challenges that we are facing as a community and as a country. So good morning and thank you, and I'm hoping that everything will go smoothly from here on.
Thank you very much, Angela. As we said, we've been working at this for a little. As usual, when we are not in the same space, all kinds of things emerge, but we press on. Before we get to our first presenter, then, I want to just take this moment to express our gratitude to Ms. Janet Silvera, the president of the Chamber, and of course the team at the Chamber, including you yourself, Angela, Karen Benjamin, who is the acting GM at the Montego Bay Convention Center. You've done an incredible job so far in getting this forum prepared. I also want to express my own personal gratitude to the Mona Information Technology Services and their teams, both at Mona and at the Western Jamaica campus, who really pulled out everything to support this connection with our people. Fantastic job, guys. We keep working through, and as usual, we remain hopeful that things will get better. Our first presenter is a young, vibrant, engaging, critical, and independent thinker who is certainly not afraid to speak his mind. When we contemplated pulling together a team of presenters that would really be grounded from Western Jamaica, we admittedly wavered a bit on who would address the economic issues. The real question is, really, who would speak about economics in such a way that it could reach everybody, whether you were in business or not, whether you were well established or new on the ground. But this young man, he stood out in our minds, and of course, he's a regular contributor to public opinion discourse in the media and writes a very popular weekly column in the Jamaica Gleaner. He is what you'd call down to earth, or as we say in Jamaica, a cool brethren, a humble youth. Dr. Hutton, Dr. Andre Horton is author of the book Developing Sustainable Balance of Payments in Small Countries, Lessons from Macroeconomic Deadlock in Jamaica. He holds a PhD in economics from the University of Essex, but will tell you that he is first and foremost a Cornwallian, having done his high school days at Cornwall College. And yes, actually he was raised in Mount Salem in St. James. To speak to us then on innovation and how to survive economically after COVID-19, my University of the West Indies colleague, Senator Dr. Andre Horton, giving him enough time to get off his phone and get over here.
Yeah, man, thank you so much for this introduction, Patrick. And I want to say hello to all the other panelists for making today a date that we discuss economics in a broad sense. And remember, we're speaking about the city of Montego Bay, we're speaking about the University of the West Indies. But this pandemic is a national issue, and as a result, whatever prescriptions we make for a particular city, it will be a prescription that can be replicated straight across the country. Now, the COVID-19 crisis has caused a supply-side shock to the world. And what do I mean by supply side? As an economist, we think basically in terms of supply and demand. So if you think about what has happened, the virus started in China, and China is who we refer to as the world's global factory. So you realize that the outbreak started in China and then had spillover effects in other Asian countries, including Cambodia, Taiwan, and Japan, and so on. And what has been happening in this case is that many of these countries, because the crisis is having a negative impact on the amount of goods they produce, it means, therefore, that the amount of goods that is being supplied to the world has minimized significantly, and this is why we call it a supply-side crisis. Now, if we want to track back to last year, when the world was already headed in a global crisis, I wrote an article in August of last year to illustrate that we're expecting a global recession in 2020. And what we realized at that time was that we had what we call an inverted yield curve, illustrating that the compensation for short-term instruments were becoming more than long-term instruments. And what we were seeing there is that people were becoming very frantic because global geopolitical tension was building up between the United States and China. As you know, the United States imposed about $50 billion worth of dollars sanction on China, while China retaliated with $50 billion worth of sanction in the United States. There was England who wanted to leave the EU, and there was Brexit there. And all this global geopolitical tension had an impact on the amount of goods and services that the world was expected to produce in 2020. And these are the reasons why we hypothesized that the world might be entering into a recession this year. Now, with all of that background, there was a fall in the demand for German automobiles. There was a fall in the demand and the trade between EU nations. Singapore found themselves in some demand troubles as well. So it was in Asia, it was in North America, it was in Europe. So the world, because of the interconnectedness and globalization, was experiencing a fall in supply. So where does that leave Jamaica? Now, every government around the world is implementing policies to soften the blow on the less fortunate. What do we mean? If you can recall the global financial crisis of 2008-2009, the solution there was what we refer to as quantitative easing, where some banks were considered too big to fail. So the government, through monetary policy and the central bank, injected capital in many of these banks so that they do not fail. This time around, we're facing a supply-side crisis where there's a short in the amount of goods that are being supplied. We're facing a healthcare crisis where a lot of people now are losing their jobs and don't have any money to purchase anything. So the crisis, though beginning from the supply side, has now been having a negative impact on demand. So governments around the world are now looking to ease the crisis with benevolence. So we have much transfer payments taking place in the United States. how many million people have applied for unemployment benefits. In the EU, there is the same thing in England. X amount of people have applied for unemployment benefits. And in Jamaica, we have our care programs that the government now is providing compensation to different groups of people, different employees, students, and so on, from a benevolent point of view. Now, by just giving people extra cash one time, if the crisis continues all the way to the end of the year, then the compensation packages that we have put aside to pay people up until May, June is not going to be sufficient. And when you look at it, if you're approaching it from the demand side, where you give people more money to purchase more goods, if you just do it from a demand side without increasing the level of supply, what you will have is that you will have too much money chasing too few goods, and you will see an increase in prices. And that is what we have been seeing in Jamaica, where price gouging has been taking full effect because we have found ourselves in a crisis. Now, the idea here is that you want a way to balance demand and supply in such a way that it does not have a significant negative effect on the business and on the consumers. So what is necessary? We have been doing a lot of research as to how to find a policy that will impact not just those who consume goods, but those who produce goods in a productive way. And from this, we are looking at the inputs that most companies use in their production process. And there are two inputs. There are two basic: labor capital. But within the functioning of capital, capital comes with certain marginal costs. For example, if you have factory machinery, if you're a seamstress, you have a sewing machine, it comes with certain marginal costs of inputs in itself. Which brings us to the whole issue of energy, the whole issue of oil prices, the entire issue of how do we mobilize sustainable output. And with this in mind, a more sustainable and a more supply side fiscal policy, speaking from the government's point of view, was if they would approach it from the gas tax point of view. So yes, we'll have some amount of benevolence where there is the social safety net that hands out to everyone in a consumption point of view and does business compensation. But also, we should be looking at how do we fill that supply side gap that has been left by China. Notice that a lot of people now are going to be skeptical about goods coming from China. A lot of people are going to be skeptical about the importation of goods because they don't know if the virus is traveling with it. And the global logistics chain coming from China has also slowed down tremendously. So because of Jamaica's strategic location in the Western Hemisphere, and because of how we have seen economic activity being conducted, then if we were supposed to have a significant reduction in the price of oil, a significant reduction in the price of gas, then that would lead to a significant reduction in the cost of production for almost every avenue, every channel in Jamaica. So let's look at them. The barbers, they use shears to trim. The hairdressers, they use their hair equipment that's plugged in. A lot of people are now sewing masks because that is now the new trend in Jamaica. We are sewing masks. Remember that you use electricity to sew, so the price of these masks would be less. The shops, the cook shops, they use electricity to cook, so the price of electricity would be less to them. The BPO sector, they use electricity when they have their monitors and so on. So the cost to them would also be cheaper. And not to mention large-scale manufacturing of iron, aluminum, and so on, if the country was able to do so. So that's the first thing. We have been tracking the price of oil since the last financial crisis, and we've realized that there has been significant declines in the price, but Jamaica has not been transferring these benefits to consumers. I myself spoke about the gas tax in the Senate because I was observing that in 2015, we imposed $9 SCT, special consumption tax on petrol and petrol-related products, as well as heavy fuel oil. In 2016, we did the same thing, and in 2017, we did a similar thing, adding $7. So over those 3-year period, we added about $25 to our overall, and that is tax. This is not Petrojam's
price markup. Petrojam's price markup is different. So we added about $25 tax to each liter of petrol and related products that Jamaicans purchase. And this is absurd. Why is it absurd? Because you want to find a way to minimize the cost of production to your citizens. And how do we do this? We have to look at the inputs to the production process: labor, gas, capital. So when there's a fall in interest rates, there's a fall in the inputs, and when there's a fall in the price of oil, there's also a fall in inputs. So that is just one issue. Now, the world is changing, and as the mayor said, you want to remain far away but still stay close. And luckily, the internet, through globalization, has been allowing us to do so for quite some time now. So many people have been finding jobs at home on the internet and have been making a decent salary. Now, you realize that the gig economy, which is the economy for young people where you do contract and off-the-site work, applications like Uber that allow taxi drivers to come on when they feel like, so they don't have to run a set shift. Applications like Fiverr that allows you to list your skill on the internet, and then somebody comes to Fiverr and asks and requests of you to participate in a particular job for them. So the new world has been evolving on the internet. And it is our responsibility as businesses to really look at how we're going to expand our product offerings via improving the distribution via remote locations on the internet, and also through logistics. So local logistics are going to become more important. The movement of goods from, say, Spanish Town to Montego Bay, the movement of goods from Spanish Town to St. Elizabeth, the movement of goods from your shop door to your kitchen, the movement of goods from your market to your kitchen. All these are going to become a necessary part of the modern world, because many people now, and young people, we speak of it, they are more comfortable inside. So they want logistics services that are able to cater to their needs while they work. So the work from home program. And Madam Chamber of Commerce and Mayor, we must commend the city of Montego Bay for the great effort it has been doing with this COVID-19 crisis thus far. Vista Print, we heard, have rented a hotel and have placed much of their staff in isolation there on a secure work from home platform. And this is now a leading example for a lot of people across the world. I was speaking to some of my colleagues in India and some of my colleagues in Ghana yesterday who were having problems in rolling out these types of BPO sustainability models, especially in times of crisis like these. And if Alarica were privy to this type of information and knowledge, they probably would have rented out the Pegasus, or probably would have rented out the Courtly Hotel. Who knows? But the idea here is that now the tourism and BPO are fusing together, integrating to maintain sustainability of the industries. So what we'll normally have is, yes, each industry have what we call backward and forward linkages. Backward linkages are the inputs to that industry, while forward linkages represents where the output from that industry goes. So the hotel and tourism sector normally have its forward and backward linkages. Backward linkages from agriculture, forward linkages, entertainment, etc., etc., forward linkages. So what we're seeing now is that we're having a synergy in Montego Bay of the hotel and tourism sector and the BPO sector, and that is now a example to the rest of the world in terms of how to innovate laterally. Because remember, you have product innovation, service innovation, you have procedure innovation, and now is the time for us to embrace innovative processes. I've seen a video online where a shopkeeper has built a pulley to his shop door and is sending the goods there and pulling back the money, sending the goods, pulling back the money. And this is innovation, which is why we have hypothesized this for quite some time, and we have been calling for the establishment of an innovation and technology absorption fund. And it is important because we are entering the fourth industrial revolution. we're entering the time and space where the computer, artificial intelligence, computer applications, and so on are making people's life easier. Big data management. So it's not as if we were not headed in this trend. We were already headed in the trend. But what the COVID crisis has done is that it has pushed us a little bit further in terms of reaching our goal. Now, how do we mobilize output? Imagine we were supposed to build pulleys in all the supermarkets across Jamaica. You will have to find the material, you will have to find labor. In this case, that is a new industry that we'll be creating right there and then. Jamaica speaks about mobile money, but different companies have been setting up different mobile money platforms that makes no sense. In Africa, you can send a text message to your mother and send her $2,000, and she used this $2,000 to go to the shop and purchase whatever goods she wants to purchase. Jamaica should be in a case to do so as well. So our telecoms company, Digicel, and Cable and Wireless, Lime, Floor, whatever the name is, they must now be in a position to create these mobile wallets so that people can send money remotely. Banks must also look to participate in this process, give people the ability to transfer money using this mobile money platform. And when we do this, we will be in a better position to integrate payment systems among ourselves as a country. We integrate procedures. And remember, in every crisis, it is an opportunity for greatness. And remember, every industry creates new jobs. So we have to now look at how do we survive remotely. And there are a lot of processes that we can implement to keep our labor locomotion active just the same by providing these type of infrastructure that allow us to survive remotely for the time being. I want to thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak this morning. I want to thank the Montego Bay Chamber of Commerce for giving me the opportunity to display my expertise on a domestic level. Normally I speak on an international platform, but this is the first time I'm speaking to the city of Montego Bay, and I want to thank you for the invite, and I hope that we can collectively work together to improve the value of the city to Jamaica. Thank you. Good day.
Thank you so very much, Dr. Houghton. You speak about the whole logistics industry as well, and the synergies that's taking place between global services and the tourism industry. And as we mentioned earlier, these are really, the tourism and service industries are really areas that we are of particular concern, especially, well, certainly as a campus and certainly as a city, but broadly speaking, the entire Western Jamaica region. And as you said earlier, it's not just about the local platform, but you have highlighted some examples there that would have global implications. And I like, you know, the reference to what's happening, your friends in Ghana and so on. Had they known about some of these things. But it's not just about knowing, it's about making sure that our own innovations are actually put out there and captured and presented in such a way. There are some questions coming in for you, and of course we're going to hold them for the opening, for the open discussion. But there's already some questions coming in. I'm going to throw you over to my co-moderator, Angela, who will introduce the next speaker.
Okay. Today we have in our midst a stalwart of Montego Bay in the form of a past president of the JHT, a member of the existing tourism task force, and group commercial director of Island Woods Caribbean Adventure. Mr. Wayne Cummins is a man of vast experiences in the hotel and hospitality industry, and we're now going to hand over to him to give us his delivery.
Thank you very much, Angela. Thank you to the Chamber and to the University of West Indies Montego Bay chapter for allowing me to participate today. I'm used to speaking in a freelance manner, but I prepared some slides just to make sure that we cover all the things I wanted to discuss in this short space of time. Thank you very much. Next slide, thank you. So before we talk about how we are going to attempt to come out of this crisis with COVID-19, I think I wanted to spend a little bit of time explaining the power of travel and tourism, and specifically tourism here in Jamaica. But prior to talking about Jamaica, I just want to frame up what tourism means to the world. $1.6 trillion per year is actually made through the travel and tourism business. Nearly 10% of the world's workforce is involved at some level, directly or indirectly, in the tourism business. Where was Jamaica prior to March 10th, 2020? The mayor was very correct to speak to that date. Even though there were cases of COVID in China and it had moved to Europe, and there were hints that it may have been moving to the Western world, we really did not see the impact of it until that magical date of March 10th when we announced our first case here. Jamaica was operating at very high occupancies. We were on the tail end of a very strong winter tourist season. For those who don't specifically look at tourism data, the winter tourist season runs from August all the way through to March, and that is when you do your best business. It's cold in the places that we mainly get people from, and therefore usually is very good. Jamaica in 2018-2019 fiscal year had 4.3 million visitors across both land-based, which means they came here, stayed in hotels between 24 hours straight through to 2 weeks and more, or cruise. And we earned $3.4 billion from those activities. Same time in 2019-2020, we had a smaller number of 3.9 million arrivals, but we made more money. We made $4.16 billion in revenue for the same period. What was the reason for the decline in visitors? We had a massive decline in cruise calls to Jamaica. There were logistics issues between the western route of Cuba, Cayman, Jamaica, and a number of ships were redirected to other ports. But even though we had a massive fall off from 1.8 million cruise passengers to 1.3 over the period, we made more money because on average, the average spend was about $788 per person arriving in Jamaica, went up to $1,067. This includes room revenues, them spending money on attractions, them spending money on craft, on transportation, etc. So it meant that we were going in the right direction as relates the value chain here for tourism for Jamaica. After March 19th, why is that date important? We got the first indication from the US State Department that they were considering a very seldom used level 4 travel advisory for all of their citizens. Immediately we now knew that the ground under us was going to shake. On March 20th, they actually implemented it. That meant that they were telling all of their citizens who had not yet traveled, do not travel. Those who were outside of the country, make your way back home, because they were planning to close their borders. Jamaica depends on the United States up to a level of about 65% for our visitor arrivals, followed by Canada and the UK, and the rest of the world makes up the difference. That was significant for us. Immediately after the 20th of March, we knew that we were in a very different phase of our business. All flights coming into Jamaica was now going to be about repatriating citizens to their country. If we did not start doing that, it means that the borders from where they came would close. Of course, our borders were being contemplated for closure as well. And then you would now have people stranded. You now have foreigners stranded in the country. Today, where are we with tourism? All excepting a few hotels, mainly in Kingston, but a couple of hotels elsewhere, are literally shut down. That means that 150,000 direct employees in the hotel business, attraction business, transportation business are at home without, many of them without an income. There are another 200,000 persons who indirectly are supported by the tourism sector. The taxis, craft vendors, red cap porters, airport workers, contract and casual workers who would come in on seasonal work, all of whom are now at home on furlough. Some businesses have offered parts of salaries, but most businesses have not been able to do that. It means that the very vast number of 350,000 persons are at home without an income, and the knock-on effect, economic effect, is a very real situation for them. So we appreciate the fact that the government implemented the CARE program, which was a very broad-based program, which was but mainly targeted at the worker population in the country. This followed a lot of talks back and forth, meetings back and forth between the Jamaica Hotel and Tourist Association and other sector associations with the government, Ministry of Finance in particular. The government came up with the CARE program specifically to make sure that they were reaching out to the workers, and there's a lot of appreciation for it. It is still rolling itself out. We expect that the workers from the tourism in particular would receive $18,000 per person for April, May, and June, $18,000 for each month. The challenge is that it is targeted to a specific group, persons who are earning $1.5 million in basic pay and below. That's appreciated for who those are, and it's a lot of persons. However, there are many, many persons, whether they earn $1 above $1.5 million and upwards, who are in the same situation. But it's a national crisis. At some stage, we are going to have to relook at the level of stimulus, the length of the stimulus, because the data is emerging that until we get a handle on the health situation and where we're going to have to find a way, and Dr. Horton spoke to this, we're going to have to find a way to make sure that people are able to feed themselves and their families. So what happened to tourism's cash flow? So we're closed down. A lot of people have said to me and said to many others, but you've done so well for so long, you should have reserves for a year. And so I want to take the time to explain how tourism works, how its cash flow works. On a normal day, and by the way, a normal day was the last several years, with the exception of the economic crisis in 2008, 2009, and 9/11 prior to that. Business in tourism globally has grown strong, it has grown exponentially, and we were all set to grow here in Jamaica year over year. But the cash that comes into our business comes in as deposits and payments for visitors who are staying with us today or for forward bookings. We're all looking at 2 months, 3 months, sometimes even a year out, people putting deposits down. Under normal circumstances, cancellations would be low or at manageable levels, and you model that in. When we had the shutdown starting March 10th, and certainly as we got towards the end of the month when the US announced its travel restrictions, the business went from very high occupancies, some persons in the 90s, in 90% of paid occupancy, to literally zero occupancy. Persons who were to come in tomorrow and the next day clearly couldn't travel. Persons who were coming in a week out, a month out, 6 months out, were all now calling their travel agents, their tour operators, and if they book directly with hotels, will be calling the hotels and saying, I need to be refunded or to be rescheduled for another time. We all had to handle those refunds, handle those rescheduling, and for the most part, refunds was the order of the day. What that did was to literally suck the cash flow out of the tourism sector, not just here in Jamaica, but across the entire world. Early into these cancellations, large tour operators started to go dark. A number of them started realizing that there was a run on their business and immediately said they're suspending any of those conversations, whether to their clients who came to them directly or to the tourism value chain, hotels, attractions, etc., for which they were taking forward bookings. that they were not having the discussions about refunds. That has dealt a severe blow from a financial point of view to the world's economy, and we are no different here. While we are dealing with the closure of our businesses, the lack of ability to collect, we're also dealing with the fact that we have live bills that have to be paid. Utilities continue to be paid, coming off of very high occupancies. That means your largest light bills, largest water rates, etc., are coming when you have no business. Taxes are the same. Payroll continues to run, at least certainly up until, in many instances, up until the end of March, certainly going into April. And there are a lot of people, by the way, who remember I mentioned that the government was providing the grant for persons at $1.5 million. However, there are persons, supervisors, managers beyond that, where some businesses are actually providing some amount of help, albeit in many instances very small. The supply chain still has to be paid. The farmers have bills in there. The distributors have bills in there as well. What we're finding now is that a lot of those payments were made, but there are still others who were on 30-day credit, etc. Many more of those bills are still coming in. It means that the whole economy that tourism supports, while tourism starts to feel the effect of this immediately, a week out, 2 months, we're now a month and a half into this crisis. And as we go a little further in, we're now starting to see the effects of the slowdown in business. Double that with the fact that people are now staying home, you're now seeing the economy getting to the place where if we weren't concerned before, you should be concerned that the economic impact is bringing us to our knees. The fact is that Jamaica's employment was at record low levels at 7.2%. All of us were celebrating it. It's something that as a country, no matter what our political views or economic views, that's an achievement that we had not seen forever. With the shutdown of the industry, some persons estimate that between 25 and 30% will look like the number that the country will start to see for unemployment. Why is that big jump real? If you take the 350,000 persons from tourism, and then you take the 40,000, depending on what levels are shut down in the BPO sector, you will start to see those numbers starting to come to life. It is not something that anybody would have wanted to see, but it is real. But it is also keeping pace with what is happening in other places around the world. Tourism salaries, for the most part, have been cut between 65 and 100%, most of that 100%. The GDP for tourism to Jamaica in 2018 was close to 34%. That is the direct income as well as induced things that follow through the linkages. At 34% of the country's income, you see the real issue. When the business is strong, it does well for the country. When that disappears, as it has disappeared, it means that the country as a whole is going to be and is in dire straits. The effect of the linkages, we want to keep in our thoughts at all times. The farmers, we've seen where the farming community has ended up with a glut. There have been a number of initiatives to pull off the excess foods that they have grown for the tourism sector, the distributive trade that can no longer take it from them. Whether you're a drink manufacturer, chicken manufacturer, paper products, etc., where nearly 40,000 formal hotel rooms would buy from you, those have disappeared. The revenues of utilities, the fuel companies, transportation providers, housing for rent, banking transactions, the aviation industry, the shipping industry, be it cruise or cargo, that feeds off of, in a lot of ways, the tourism sector, that has disappeared. Very, very significant changes. So when does it look possible for the industry to reopen? Unfortunately, next slide, please. Unfortunately, that's a guess at this point, but albeit a guess, it is a body of work that a lot of persons are working on. The Ministry of Health is going to be the most critical stakeholder in this, because we are in a health crisis more than anything else. But that health crisis has now put us into the throes of the worst economic crisis the world has ever seen. So in partnership with the Ministry of Health, the Ministry of Tourism, the Ministry of Finance, the Jamaica Hotel and Tourist Association, the Tourism Product Development Company, and the Jamaica Tourist Board has been on a daily basis knocking heads, trying to find agreement on, first of all, what's really happening. What is the statistics saying? What are the medical practitioners saying, the scientists saying, and more importantly, how can we fit into this new world order? The new world order is, how do we survive in the time of COVID? We all hoped that one day we would wake up and the COVID would be behind us, and we'll have an all clear. That all clear is seeming more and more ominous, because a vaccine, we're hearing, would take up to 2 years. But can we stay closed for 2 years? I think the emerging view is that that's not possible. So we're going to have to find a way to reformat our thinking, our businesses, and implement protocols for which we can use globally to survive. We are working hard to find a set of protocols, from sanitization and cleaning to mask wearing, and more importantly, how do you reopen the international borders where the locals can trust those who are coming in, those who are coming in can trust the local population, that we won't be reinfecting each other. That, unfortunately, is a real work that is now being done. We feel that we're very close to a set of protocols that seem to be finding favor around the world, but certainly here in Jamaica. And as soon as those protocols have been agreed on, we will be advising the global travel trade, airlines, crews, travel agents, tour operators, that this is what we believe we have to work with. It is going to be very important for these protocols to be implemented across the length and breadth of the tourism sector, but beyond the tourism sector, into the local population, whether it is a supermarket or it is a corner shop. We all are going to have to buy into this new way of surviving by reducing, if not eliminating, the possibilities where we can infect each other. Local health, it is going to be very important for us, I think, to make those moves, all based on health being the major parameters for us. The fact of the matter is that we think that the most important thing that we can identify and work with is the ability to test persons. The immunity is one thing that we've all been kind of latching on to as being the thing that will say that if Wayne has immunity to COVID, then he can go to work. Unfortunately, the test for COVID immunity has not been very reliable. Where are we thinking now? We think that if you have a negative COVID-19 test, it's a starting point. However, it needs to be able to stand up to a bit of scrutiny. How long does a negative test certificate work to allow you to get onto an international flight, to get onto a cruise line? And if you require it of persons coming into your country, you need to make sure that when they are getting back on those vessels, they have a similar COVID-19 negative test to go back into the population where they're headed. We have to, I think, make sure that the use of masks are universal. There is no way around it at this point. Social distancing is a requirement. We started at 3 feet. We're now up to 6 feet. There's been talk we need to go to 12 feet. When you go to 12 feet, then we should all just stay home. And that's not going to be possible. That's not how the world works. So the way to support social distancing, the 6 feet is agreed. We need to figure out how to get people to come into our businesses and transact, be they a shop or a hotel or an attraction. But by wearing a mask, that mask is one of the greatest ways to ensure that social distancing becomes doable. There is no way around it, and anybody who has a resistance to it, unfortunately, you're going to have to learn how to deal with it. Even the cloth mask is now finding great favor, and I'm very happy that there are a number of persons who are investing in it, making it, and they're making money from it. Make hay while the sun shines is what we say. setting a date for reopening our economy, even if the other economies of the world is not yet ready, gives us something to work towards. Let's say we say it was, and this is purely hypothetical, everybody, it's not a headline. Let's say that the opening date for Jamaica was July 15th. It means that we are now all going to be able to say, okay, what do we need to do at our airports, our cruise ports, our individual businesses to get the market, the country moving again. The Ministry of Health will now have to be able to say, take the statistics, take all that they're doing with regards to not overwhelming the hospitals, to say that is a sensible date because it now overlays very nicely with their ability to manage the health crisis. If for some reason that date is not the ideal date, then we set a new date. And if we don't do this consistently, we're going to stay closed forever. You would have heard it from other people, but I want to say, if we don't find a way to beat COVID-19 or manage and live with COVID-19 in a sensible fashion, not to put our population at risk, we are going to have a new virus, and that virus is going to be called starvation. That one has a whole different level of behavior that none of us want to see. People need jobs, people need income, people need work. If we don't find a way to survive safely, we're going to have a challenge. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Director Wayne. You have made some salient points. We all know that Jamaica relies a lot on tourism. It relies also on the BP sector. We were hoping that the unemployment would be more significantly reduced with the BPO taking speed, but unfortunately, the COVID situation has escalated the government decision to close for a short space of time. But I feel that, working in unison as citizens, doing what we're supposed to do, wearing our mask, social distancing, that will help a lot. But one of the things that we probably may need to look at as well is, the fact that if we're going to be opening the borders, bringing in persons, how is that going to significantly impact our country and the people and us remaining sustainable during this crisis? I think those are some of the things that we're going to have to explore on this platform today.
Yes.
So thank you. So, co-moderator, we're going to be asking you to introduce our next speaker, please.
Just saw and heard where, there are protocols being worked out, and once those are agreed, those will be shared in the global market space. Again, linking to the economics presentation, we're seeing where there are examples on the ground that we can actually put forward out there. And we certainly, as a university, and definitely the Western Jamaica campus, we're indeed pleased to be at the forefront of all of this changing lives, as we would say. And, I've always said that we're in the business of transforming communities. In fact, I'll just tell you a little bit that since 2008, we've produced or graduated over 1,000 persons at both the undergraduate and graduate level. And right across important fields, we would say, media and communication, law, accounting, banking and finance, management information systems, tourism management, medical sciences, and psychology. And I say psychology because it's an important part of our well-being. In fact, our psychology unit at the Western Jamaica campus is playing such a significant role in the well-being of the region that both the Student Association and the staff have received commendation and awards from the Regional Health Authority. And one of the things that I'm really very proud of is that the firebrand, I love to say, behind a lot of this success is Miss Georgia Rose. There is an expression in Jamaica, you know, Dr. Houghton, that says, that fits her very, very well. Little but talawa. Miss Georgia Rose is a clinical psychologist who specializes in learning disorders. And for the last 15 or so years, on any given day, you can find her at any site across the region, involved and engaged in matters to do with mental health, education, and early childhood development. She holds a Master of Science degree in clinical psychology and is currently pursuing a Doctor of Philosophy in infant and early childhood education. To present on the topic, preserving mental health during COVID-19, let us hear from Miss Georgia Rose. Georgia, are you there? Georgia?
I don't know what happened.
All right, go ahead. We're hearing you clearly now, so go ahead.
Go ahead, Mr. P.
Sure.
Okay, thank you. Good morning and welcome to all who have joined us. I want to spend the next few minutes sharing some tips and strategies on how to preserve your mental health during this difficult time. For many of us, this is a new experience, which means we would have no prior knowledge to pull on to guide us on what to do. This uncertainty and fluidity may cause discomfort for some. Additionally, we may feel confused and overwhelmed by the onslaught of information and opinions that seek to share with us what they believe is best. It is therefore pertinent that we attend to our mental health in as much as we attend to our physical health. There has been much emphasis on safeguarding our physical health through things such as hand washing and wearing protective gear such as a mask. Likewise, we want to encourage you that the same emphasis be placed on your mental health. Numerous studies demonstrate that during mass disasters, we are at an increased risk for the development and exacerbation of a pre-existing mental illness, suicide and suicide attempts, psychological trauma, abuse, and domestic violence. We must be mindful that we are social beings, and being separated from each other may prove to be a threat to our psychological functioning and well-being. If you could change the next slide, please. So I have a brief slideshow, right? So the first thing I want to remind everyone is that this is not a normal situation. It is outside our realm of what normalcy is. And because of that, we would have no stored information that would guide us on how it is that we are supposed to approach new challenges that have been placed within our realm because of the virus. And as a result of that, we may not necessarily be prepared. I keep hearing many persons speaking about the guilt. What if I had done this? How else could I have better positioned myself for the needs and the demands that I am now faced with? I want to remind you, there's nothing that you could have done to prepare yourself for this. I encourage everyone to maintain authenticity. And what does that speak to? Allow yourself to feel the range of emotions that you may be experiencing at this time. No one is able to interpret what this pandemic means for you. For many of us, the feelings will vary from time and place. So I want to encourage us to dwell and to remain in the here and now. We have no control over the past, and we have very little over the future. So it is best to take each day as it comes and to allow yourself to move through as best as you are able to. Our next slide. The impact will vary from person to person. There is no blueprint on how you should feel and how you will be affected. Each of us will respond to the demands and the challenges of the coronavirus in a different way. Much of that will center on what our resources are. Do you still have your job? What is your family support like? Do you live at home? Do you feel secure? Do you feel safe? Do you feel protected? Do you feel as if you have the resources and the support that is necessary to make it through each day? You might find that your emotions cycle. So one day you might feel calm and well prepared. The next day you might feel anxious and overwhelmed. You might have times when you also feel depressed and scared. All of that is quite normal. Just be reminded that everyone is being affected by this pandemic. It does not matter if you're an adult or a child, elderly or young, male or female, wealthy or poor. Everyone is facing some degree of impact from this pandemic. There's a concept called universality, and what it means is that you are not alone. What Jamaica is going through is not for Jamaica alone. Across the globe, other Caribbean islands, greater nations than us, first world nations, everyone is struggling to cope with the effects of coronavirus. It is not an indictment on you. You're not being punished. You have not committed any major crime or offense. It is not God laying down his wrath on you because you have committed some grave sin more than anyone else. And that is very important and critical that we remember this. We're not being punished, right? We also must be guided by the facts. The mortality rate of the coronavirus is quite low. Less than 3% of those who contract the virus may die. As a result of that, we don't want to be careless, but we also want to be reminded that it is not a death sentence. And that is important because when we have members of the public who do contract the virus and recover and return to their normal life, we do not want to stigmatize or isolate them any further. Grief is normal, and I have been encouraging persons to allow themselves to grieve if they feel the need to. If you have been robbed of that opportunity to have that amazing wedding that you spent years planning, or have that baby shower that you were so looking forward to, anything that has been disrupted, the loss of job, maybe you just started a new business, maybe you embarked on something that was close and dear to your heart that you have been planning for years. And because of this pandemic and the social and economic constraints, you have had to modify your plans. Allow yourself to go through the grief if that is what you're truly experiencing. We're humans, and it's okay to feel the feelings or the emotions that we're currently experiencing. Next. With social distancing comes the challenge of maintaining our emotional connections. I like to remind persons that we're social beings. We were meant to interact with each other. We were never meant to exist in isolation. Our humanity is really entrenched in our day-to-day interactions. Sometimes we forget that when we leave our homes and we go about our daily chores, that we come in contact with so many individuals that contribute to what our day is like. Now, when we are locked away or we have those social interactions reduced, it can threaten our psychological well-being. So one, as much as we might go on social media to maintain those connections, I want us to be mindful of what it is that we're taking away from social media. Be careful that you're not consuming too much and that you're not able to separate the fact from the fiction. Sometimes the fiction propels the hysteria and makes us feel like the world is coming to an end. So you have to be careful of that. Maintain our emotional connectivity. We live in an age that allows us to connect to each other without being in the same space. And I think personally that might be considered as a blessing. There are many platforms that exist. So many of them are free that allow us to check in on our loved ones and people that are close and dear to us. So I encourage persons to utilize these connections to safeguard our emotional connectivity. Remember your humanity. This is one of the times to remember to be your brother's keeper. The mayor spoke about having these care packages delivered to many persons across the parish, but I also want to extend that if you are aware of someone who needs help and you are in a position to do so, do not hesitate. You might find that doing something for others during this difficult time might help you to find meaning during a period where it is so hard to find that. And of course, there is the self-care. If you do not take care of yourself, you will not be in a position to assist anyone. And self-care can mean lots of things to different persons. If you like to go into the gym and you're no longer able to do so, now might be an opportunity to create an exercise routine that utilizes the things that are present in your home, your neighborhood, or your community. I notice a lot of persons have taken up walking and running in their communities. So I want to encourage persons, they say that necessity is the mother of all inventions. Now is the time to find novel solutions to the problems that we might be faced with. And finally, I think I have one more slide. Yes. Do the things that bring you comfort. Once again, everyone will have recommendations and suggestions about what you should and should not do. But not every solution or recommendation will be practical for you. Do the things that work best for you. So things such as meditation, practicing your faith, does not matter what kind of faith it is, remaining connected with people who bring you joy and peace, playing. Now is a wonderful time to start playing. I heard a parent speaking about playing dandy shandy and building Chinese skip. Now is an opportunity to pass these things on to your children and reminding yourself to have fun. Humor, reclaim the joy in your life. Remember, it is okay to laugh, smile, and have fun. I've heard persons saying, this is such a serious time, what is there to laugh about? But I want to challenge you that no more than ever, you need to have laughter in your life. There's so much that is negative and bad that is taking place that you gain nothing by investing in that further. Now is the time to allow your heart, your spirit, and your soul to smile. Seek out the facts. Be mindful of fake news. Rely only on trusted and reliable sources of information. Always note that there are individuals who thrive off of the hysteria and fake information. They get joy out of it, why we don't fully understand. So you want to make sure that you are being guided and using the information from trusted and credible sources. And finally, I always want to encourage persons to seek help. Never be ashamed or scared to speak to someone if you feel that you are not coping adequately or that you are not doing well. This may be a relative, a trusted friend, a colleague, a minister of religion. And if you're not comfortable with any of those persons, there are multiple avenues or options available to speak to a trained mental health specialist. I have a final slide that has some of that information up, if we could put it up, please. So the Ministry of Health and Wellness has a mental health and suicide prevention helpline that is managed by trained counselors, and the number is 888-639-5433, 888-639-5433. We also have the Disaster Mental Health Unit of the Jamaica Red Cross, and there is the Jamaica Psychological Association. I want to encourage you not to hesitate to reach out to any of these contacts so that you may get the help sooner than later. And finally, be reminded that there is no good health without good mental health. Thank you.
Thank you so very much, Georgia. Each time you say finally, I'm ready to jump in, but very clear, very precise. Thanks for that presentation. I like the summary slide. We have a couple questions for you. I'm going to ask you one and then we open up, but just in terms of the summary slide, I really appreciate it. You know, we really need to learn to take care of ourselves during this time. The fact is we're going through collective trauma, and we all have to support each other to come out of it collectively. And so, you know, we have to take care of ourselves. The whole thing of, you know, the Jamaican talk, taking teeth, kibo heart bun. Yeah, we need to find a way to laugh through these things. To find some humor, not laugh through it or laugh, but, you know, to relax ourselves and so on. And of course, seeking help. You know, sometimes we're so, how the expression go again, Andre, prideful, full of pride, that we don't even want to seek help, but we really need to reach out when we need help. And of course, the one that's very, very important to me, and it's something that, you know, we're not speaking a lot about, but we're going to have to probably do a session in the future, is the whole thing of making sure that we identify a trusted and reliable source of information. Because too much hysteria is out there being created by people who, as you say, take pleasure, enjoy doing this to others. The question I have for you, Ms. Rose, has to do with I know you're a strong advocate for play, and everybody talk about it. We're all home. You mentioned it in your presentation. But a significant part of our population, meaning our children, are also at home. And play as part of our own development is you know, it's so fundamental. You know, what ideas can you share? If there's one or two things you could tell us about about how to still remain engaged so that we can, what opportunities are there that we should be looking at in terms of, play, especially for children?
Patrick, I actually love that question because, it really speaks to my heart in terms of my interest. That play is an essential developmental tool for children, and play is at risk for many reasons in our society, and even more at risk now because of this pandemic and this lockdown. But the very definition of play, is unstructured fun activity. There are no boundaries, there are no rules, and there are no borders. And it really requires very little. And if many of us in Jamaica are quite honest and think back to when we were children, our play did not really involve a lot of contraptions and toys. Now is an opportunity to really teach to our children and demonstrate to our family members that we can have fun without having a lot of things present. So I have small children, and recently while they were in the heights of boredom, we ended up playing Simon Says and Red Light, Green Light. Now they got the most joy and fun out of that, and they're very small children. So, I want to encourage parents and guardians to really facilitate that opportunity for children, teenagers, and even adults to have that downtime, because the literature suggests strongly that play is integral in safeguarding our mental health. And that is why for a very long time, children did not present mental disorders. But now, because we have taken away play, we're seeing our children with more fragmented psychological states. So I definitely want to reinforce and encourage that.
Thank you so very much. There are a couple other questions for you, but I have one for Mr. Cummings that I'd like to give him an opportunity to respond to. While he sets himself for the question, I just want to say that, we've been getting some comments. Mr. Cummings, very good presentation from one of your fans. Learned a lot as a member of the industry, another one said, and very, very informative, said yet another. As someone who operates within the sector, you were so on point. But Trudy has a question for you, Mr. Cummings, and it says, as laymen, I wonder if the hotels and the businesses in tourism don't have an emergency saving, given how susceptible the industry is. Is there some form of savings practice at all within the industry?
That's a very good question from Trudy. I want to thank the fans first of all for the comments, but just to Trudy, it's a very good question because a lot of people really don't understand why it is that the sector has suddenly run out of cash. We're all not the same. There are bigger companies, medium size and small, and I have a particular passion for the small hotels, the small attractions, who in many instances don't run the level of occupancy and have the level of success of the much bigger ones who have scale and economies of scale. But what's interesting about what has happened is that if you look at the bank account in early March, where there was cash flow, there was a reserve. The question is about reserves that could have actually taken you through 6 months. But under normal circumstances, you would not have lost the revenue the way we did. So going forward, there is now going to be a shift. There has to be a shift in making sure that you have a store of cash that you can depend on that is beyond, out of profit, not necessarily out of cash flow. It's going to take a while though to build it back up before you get to that stage.
Okay. Thank you so very much. Yeah, I know your fans would appreciate your response as well. Dr. Houghton, you also have some comments coming in. Actually, I think this is somebody from Mark from Wayne's Industry. Well done, the person says, Dr. Houghton, always quality in your thoughts. We do need new vision for industrial policy in Jamaica to enhance the level of production and the value of it, really. Somebody, though, wanted to know in terms of, how do we actually, in bringing down or shifting some of the taxes that you're talking about, how do we actually, you have to come with me. How do we actually ensure that the benefit goes over to the regular consumer.
All right. When we speak of pricing mechanisms, and oil prices is just one pricing mechanism, every goods is associated with a price. The fall in the price that goes to the supplier, because the government has always acted as a intermediary deterrent to the cost benefits that we receive. Now, how does it work? There's a pass-through. So whenever oil prices fall globally, then this price is passed through to the refinery who purchased the oil globally. But what normally happens is that because the government adds this $41 or whatever the ratio is to each price, then add $25 for the tax, businesses always are going to be in the frame of mind that whatever benefits are there, the government is going to mop it up anyway. So they are going to always hedge against the government. However, if they are seeing where the government is making efforts to pull down these prices, and then very similar to how we imposed the price gouging law the other day, what we'll do is extend it to include pass-through laws. So companies, based on the disaster that we're in, will have to pass through these cost savings to the consumers. So the asymmetry that we're facing now, what do I mean by asymmetry? A difference in upward and downward movement. What you realize that when oil prices increase, there are costs to oil companies when oil prices increase, and they pass through this cost to the consumer. But when oil prices fall, there are benefits that they do not pass through. So what the government will have to do, along with removing these taxes and these exaggerative markups, they will implement a law that companies must immediately pass through these benefits to the consumers. And it's going to be, because companies will understand if they see the government make the first move.
Thank you very much. And I don't know if my co-moderator has a question, but I have one here from for Miss Rose. I'm trying to get back to it. I missed it completely. There are some really, we all needed this information to regain and settle our minds. A comment came in for you, Miss Rose. Mental health is very, very important in this time of need. We asked a question already about, play and so on, but somebody wanted to know that if there is one thing that we should consider in terms of coping, what would that one message be?
It's very difficult to give one thing, Patrick, because as I said, what you need to cope will vary upon your particular demands. But I would say the major thing, there was a study that was done not too long ago, and it was actually published earlier this year, where they did a longitudinal study and compared life expectancy for persons and looked at that common variable amongst individuals that seem to lead longer and healthier lives. And the one variable that seemed to stand out the most was good social support. So the one thing I would recommend to everyone during this difficulty is maintaining those healthy emotional connections, staying connected with the people who build you up, who pull you up when you're not feeling so wonderful, who check in on you, who have genuine concern and care for you, who make you laugh. Not those that are trying to spread the hysteria, who are trying to overwhelm you further, or who are trying to tear you down. So I would think if you had to sacrifice everything else and just keep one, just being connected to other people would be the best thing.
Thank you so very much. I think, is the mayor still with us? I have a question. The mayor, we know that you have been watching and you have been, encouraging us all to keep hope and all that. Somebody wants to know, what is the one thing you're going away with from this forum that you want our city to at least bear in mind, sir?
Well, what I would like to say to my city is that we are still in the middle of a storm that the eye has not yet passed. And so I would encourage each and every one of our citizens to adhere to all the the guidelines that are being issued by our Ministry of Health and any other government service. Because I still think that we still have a long way to go. And I heard someone mention about how long will this thing last before we can open up. I would say it will be for some time, in my own opinion, because as I said, we haven't seen the eye of the storm as yet. Montego Bay is still doing very well in terms of COVID cases, but I still think that if we don't continue to adhere to all the best practices, we might likely be seeing a spike here in Montego Bay. So my takeaway from this is that this forum, in my opinion, a very timely one, and I would like to see more involvement, people involvement as it relates to our service clubs, our churches, reach out more to encourage more people to adhere to what needs to be done to protect them from this dreaded pandemic.
Thank you so very much, Mayor Davis. Angela, I understand you have a question?
It needs to be unmuted. Thank you.
Go ahead, clearly.
No, there was a question from someone asking whether or not they were going to be able to listen to this afterwards. And I would just like to say that, yes, it will be posted on YouTube, so everybody will be able to pull it down after this.
Okay.
And watch it.
Okay. We know we're streaming live, and I know we're recording and so on. So, yes, there will be opportunities for people to engage with the material as we go forward. We've been getting a lot of that question. There are questions, for example, Dr. Houghton, people obviously want to know how to reach you so that if you can share, we know you never had a PowerPoint, but, you know, if there's more that you can share with them, the same thing in...
Social media, Dr.
Come. The same thing with Georgia. People want to have access, especially to the. Go ahead.
Facebook. Yes. If you want to contact me after this, you can reach me via my social media platforms. That is Dr. Andre Houghton. That's Dr. Andre Houghton. DRANDRE HAUGHTON. So that's on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn. It's the same name, Dr. Andre Houghton, DRANDRE HAUGHTON.
I have a question for, thank you, Dr. Houghton. I have a question for Mr. Cummings. In light of the fact that we know that the hotel industry or the hospitality industry has been severely impacted, and a number of your employees are not going to be rehired. What are some of the skill sets that you would be looking for that you think that those who are out there need to start sharpening up their skills on so that they can become more effective in their and marketable in their job hunting in the months to come?
What an amazing question. Thank you, Angela. I think first and foremost, Jamaica has some of the best hospitality talent anywhere in the world. Anywhere, whether you're in the kitchen, front of house, front desk, entertainment, etc., they are spectacular. There are a number of things I think all of us should do. Get online. The Ministry of Tourism has launched a number of free training programs cutting across customer service, looking at health and sanitation, food and beverage management, etc. I think many persons have already signed up. It may actually be already closed, but there are those opportunities that people need to log into. Certainly the company I work for through the Sandals Corporate University is doing a whole lot of pushing its online platform to the team members, and I know many other companies are doing so. It matters not what you do, just don't allow yourself to get trapped into doing nothing. The fact of the matter is, and I really want to if you would allow me to just extend my thinking on what's going to happen with our workforce. We are not going to be the same must be considering what it's going to do with cost structure, its efficiencies, etc. So the world that we left on March 9th and the world we're going to go into, whatever date it is going to be. We're going to start at zero occupancy and take our way up the chain. We are going to see very, very different skills being asked of us. Less of us are going to go to work first, and then the rest of us will trickle in thereafter. But you may also see where businesses that previously had 100 people may now need 75. Why? Technology. Why? Because as we are now working from home, as we are now looking at how not to make this happen to us again economically, we are now realizing that maybe Wayne was not as effective, or Wayne won't necessarily be needed in the new post-COVID time. It's not an indictment on anyone, but everybody, including in your household, now needs to start looking at how can we live differently. On a normal circumstances, maybe I had to go to Pier 1 on a Friday night and I couldn't miss it. Well, Pier 1 is still lovely, by the way. But maybe I don't need to go every Friday night. Maybe I can go once a month, because I'm realizing that I can live without it. And I apologize that I'm not after Pier 1, I love it. But I'm just suggesting that we all need to take stock, and our businesses certainly will. Because it is going to be the difference between our preparing ourselves for the work world again, sharpen up how we look, how we behave, how we prepare for the new economy. How much can we do at home? I have never seen so many persons asking, sending messages about delivery services. I didn't even know they existed. Going to the supermarket is going to look very different. Going to the market is going to look very different. People are going to start doing these tasks for you. So the preparation, Angela, is get your mind and your body ready for what is to come. Do your research.
That's good. That's excellent.
Yeah.
And I would like to say too, for those persons who are listening, that take the time, sharpen up your resumes. Go and take some online classes. It's not going to be the same if you were working at the front office. Try to dwell deeper into understanding other aspects of your the company's financing, etc., etc. Is you can't just be looking around anymore. You're just gonna have to be self-sufficient and have your mind set around all the changes that are going to be taking place around us and around the world.
Yep, new ways of doing things, new ways of thinking. In fact, as when you're expanding, and certainly to underscore some of the comments made by Angela, there's a question here for Dr. Houghton that I think kind of fits really well into. There is another question that I just asked him if he could answer, but I wanted to pose the question that's related to your response, Wayne. The question is that earlier you had mentioned the gig economy as a new era of potential. Could you just speak a little bit more about that, and where are those opportunities for us within this region? And then there is a follow-up for you as well, that in terms of what's happening they're globally, they're predicting a housing downturn given the impact of COVID. How will that affect rental and mortgage prices, if you think there will be any kind of impact there?
Yeah, these are two very good questions. Let's speak to the gig economy first. Over the last 20 years, massive expansions has been taking place inside the internet. Massive expansion has been taking place in terms of meeting consumers where they are with the goods that they demand. And as a result, a lot of web-based companies are using GPS, using artificial intelligence and big data management to feed into applications that provides resource solutions. Now, the gig economy is the modern economy that we're facing, where young people are not inclined to work on the usual 9 to 5. So you find a person, for example, they attend university, they garner certain skills, and they want to use these skills, but on their own time, they want to be their own boss. So think about you operating a particular company, but everyone who works for you is their own boss, meaning that they are providing a job to you on their own timing. So if I made examples of the Uber, and taxi drivers are able to join when they want to and leave when they want to. I made examples of Fiverr, where if you are a graphic designer, if you are a writer, anything you do, you can advertise on Fiverr and people can find it. We look at things like Craigslist, that lists different types of people who have different services to offer, and you go there and you apply for them to come and offer these services to you. So the gig economy is really spinning. It's spinning. It's not a mobile static economy that we were familiar with throughout the Industrial Revolution. So when you're in Industrial Revolution, we have a static economy where we are robots. We go from work 9 to 5, 5 to 9 on set timing, and you get a particular task that the job allows or wants you to do, and you participate there. Now the gig economy, you are a specialist that the company needs to participate in a particular job. Good? And then the company hires you to do that job for them, and after that you are freelancing just the same. So the gig economy is a new word for freelancers, people who now are working on their own time and doing things their own way. And that is where the modern economy is going, because the fourth industrial revolution provides the computerized platforms and artificial intelligence solutions to deal with these. Now we're looking at the housing crisis. We were having this discussion yesterday as well, a big discussion, and we are going to see a global trend where houses is concerned, but I'm not so sure about Jamaica. I'm an IMF Distinguished Academic Fellow. So I go to the annual plenary and I meet with the International Monetary Fund about global policy. And that is why my opinions are always so relevant, because how the Jamaican economy functions within the global paradigm is a lesson for many of these developing and other emerging market economies. And what do I mean? Prices are very sticky here, especially housing prices, simply because there are many factors that impact demand. Affordability. So much of the high-end housing that normally purchased in Jamaica are purchased by business owners or foreigners or people who are well established in their careers. Medium-term housing are purchased by civil servants. So what you have are different ratios of housing. So housing within different ratios will continue to exist. But where the that we're looking for, the big decline, it is going to be gradual. It is going to be gradual. We're not going to see that we want to see. And we predicted that there was a price bubble developing in Jamaica since about 3 or 4 years ago. But because many of these owners of the property who are selling them, they can hold without losing income, many of them will not be in any hurry to get rid of the properties that they have on hand.
Thank you very much, Dr. Houghton. As we said in the beginning, never afraid to speak his mind. We're just about coming to the end of this forum, but people have been asking about how to keep in contact and so on. And our social media handlers just did what you are so good at doing, just jumping up and tell us the information, right? So what we can do here is to follow us at UWI, WJC on all social media platforms for updates. Now, I should know that. You see what I mean? Yes. I should know that. You know, so my social media handler sent me a note to say, sir, please. And we're on Facebook. And please send the questions, and we will definitely have continued conversation on that. We're going to wrap, and so what I'm going to do, Dr. Houghton had his last comment just now. I'm going to ask Wayne for 30 seconds, and then we'll ask Ms. Rose for 30 seconds. Then we'll go to my co-moderator, and then I'll wrap up.
Thank you very much, Patrick. So my preferred social media platform is Instagram. I'm at Wayne.Cummings on Instagram, Wayne.Cummings. First of all, thank you very, very much for the opportunity to share my thoughts. I particularly enjoyed both Andre and Georgia's presentation as well. I have to tell Georgia that not only was her information instructive, but I liked her calm voice. It made a very big difference. We are in some strange times. I refuse to use the word unprecedented. We are going to have to stand together. We're going to have to make some very tough decisions about getting our economy reopened the best way we can. That could mean anything. But if we do not, I really fear for the most vulnerable in our society, economically, health-wise, etc. Those persons must be protected at all costs. And some of that will mean that we get back to work. Somewhere in the middle of all of that are going to be the protocols and doing it correctly and doing it in the best interest of everyone. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Rose?
Miss Rose.
Thank you so very much. It was such a wonderful opportunity. I want to say how much I love being a Jamaican. I think there's no better place on earth with our good and with our bad. And with that being said, I just want to encourage everybody to challenge yourself, to just stop, take a moment, pause, take a deep breath, and remind yourself that we are going to get through this. We don't know when, but we will. And when that day arrives, we will all be the better off for it. Have a wonderful day, everyone.
See the calmness that we've been talking about. Mrs. Witter?
Yes, I would like to say that the Montego Bay Chamber of Commerce is always standing ready to assist the community in the best possible way. We invite everyone to continue to reach out to us on Facebook. Our offices are open as well at Union Street. And we encourage everyone to continue to keep saying, it's trying times, it's challenging times, but I think that we can work together to do this. And, we just have to just ensure that we do not do anything that is outside of the ordinary. I think the government is doing a good job in trying to figure out a way in which to create the best outcome. We have to wear a mask. We have to remain distant and just continue to be neighborly and caring and sharing as we as Jamaica knows how best to be. So I thank you all. And this will not be the first and the last forum that we're going to have. We will continue to send out notices as soon as we're going to be hosting the next, which is very soon. So thank you all and have a great day. Follow us on Facebook, please. Thank you.
Thank you so very much, Angela. Thanks for sharing this experience with me. And it was a great pleasure. We've certainly heard some thought-provoking presentations, brilliant presentations, as everybody said, in their comments so far. And certainly, we've also had some excellent responses to some tough questions. We've heard some new ideas, new possibilities, new ways of living and doing things, and so I want to thank our presenters. Dr. Andre Houghton, the Senator, and lecturer, I would say, in the Department of Economics, University of the West Indies. Mona, Mr. Wayne Cummings, I always have the department wrong. Senior lecturer, Senator, yes, senior lecturer in the Department of Economics. Mr. Wayne Cummings is the Group Commercial Director, Island Roots Caribbean Adventures. Ms. Georgia Rose, lecturer, Department of Psychology, Sociology, and Social Work at UWI Mona Western Jamaica campus. We must also extend the profound gratitude to the Mayor of Montego Bay, Councillor Homer Davis, for his contribution to the success of this event. He's always there for us, always supporting Thanks also to the team that developed and produced this forum. We've heard from Angela, we've heard from the president of the chamber, of the Montego Bay Chamber of Commerce and Industry, and behind the scenes, also a member of the team producing this event, Mr. Caron Benjamin, as we mentioned. Well, he's the acting GM at the Montego Bay Convention Center, and behind the scenes as well at WJC, Mr. Andre Horton. Did I say Hewitt? It's because you're there, Andre. You're giving me trouble now. A very, very special thanks to Mr. Ishmael Preston and the team at Mona Information Technology Services. And finally, we have to say thank you for joining us on this forum. We truly appreciate you as our audience, and we look forward to seeing you as participants in the upcoming series that Mrs. Witter mentioned. We're going to do a series on business and wellness. It's a series of webinars on business and wellness, and that will start soon. We'll be doing that over the next several weeks into months, and probably end with another event like this. But I also want to bring your attention that we have been planning, we had postponed it because of the COVID crisis, but we're still looking at hosting the WJC Sustainable Cities Conference at the end of September, early October. We're still working on that, and at that point we're going to have to be dealing, of course, including in our issues of sustainability, the whole issue of public health and how we treat with that. But we're focusing on climate action, we're focusing on safety and security, and a big mention in this forum today, technological transformation and how we build a sustainable and resilient society. So our Sustainable Cities Conference, look out for that. The information is out there, and we'll continue to share. My name is Patrick Prendergast, the campus director at the UWI Mona Western Jamaica campus, and it has really been a pleasure sharing this experience with you. On behalf of the University of the West Indies Mona Western Jamaica campus and the Montego Bay Chamber of Commerce and Industry, I say thank you, thank you, thank you, and please, please remember, stay safe, stay healthy, choose hope, choose optimism. Thank you.